All right. Some of you may have seen Steel Magnolias, either on stage or the film. The story is of a group of Southern women finding strength in themselves and through their friendship with one another. The main storyline is that of Malin and her daughter Shelby, whose diabetes is causing significant complications as she gets married, has a child, and eventually needs a kidney transplant. In the end, Shelby dies too young, and Malin is quietly, reservedly angry. Angry at losing a child, angry at death, angry at God. But amongst these friends in the cemetery, Malin finally has space to drop her Southern propriety and let her anger out. She rants and raves. She says, I want to hit somebody so they can feel as bad as I do. I just want to hit somebody. Clary offers their friend Weezer as a target. Hit Weezer, hit her. Go ahead, Malin, slap her. They all pause for a moment, but it shakes them, and then they begin laughing hard. That moment changed the energy, changed their perspective, and changes us too. And the truth is, our taste for humor and the kinds of humor we enjoy is cultural. But our human brains are all wired for humor. In his book, The Prehistory of the Mind, anthropologist Stephen Mithen talks about the development of the human brain as a process of cognitive fluidity. He theorizes that the primate mind has evolved into the modern mind by combining different, distinct ways of processing knowledge and using tools to create a modern civilization. Where once our archaic human ancestors had separate parts of our brain dedicated to technology and society and nature, Mithen suggests that those regions begin to connect and overlap, and thus we begin to arrive at original thoughts that weren't about food and shelter and danger, but are often highly creative and rely on metaphor and analogy. We often use metaphor in our congregations as ways to communicate various understandings of the divine. We say things like Spirit of Life, Infinite All, Divine One, That which holds all, Mystery, God. And without the cognitive fluidity of our minds, we wouldn't have metaphor, no less a sense of something that is tangible and maybe beyond us. It's that same fluidity that allows humor to exist. So let's look at a simple joke. Okay. A kangaroo walks into a bar and sits down. The bartender comes over. What can I get you? I'll have a whiskey sour. The bartender fixes the drink, sets it in front of the kangaroo, and says, that'll be $12.50. The kangaroo pulls a 20 from his pocket, lays it on the bar. He picks up his drink and takes a long, quiet sip. Gee, says the bartender, we don't get many kangaroos in here. Kangaroo replies, well, at these prices, it's no wonder. So what happened here? First, I hope you laughed. I made a pause, right? But what's happened is first we're taking a societal situation, somebody walking into a bar, and added an unusual thing from the natural world, namely a kangaroo. Already we've engaged with some fluidity, and we're willing to apply human traits to this kangaroo, namely speech and the ability to sit on a bar stool. Second, during the center of the joke, our brains accept this as the new normal. And then the joke challenges that new normal. The setup, we don't get many kangaroos at this bar, is by its very nature leads us to think, oh right, a kangaroo at a bar may not be normal. And then the punchline flips the entire thing on its head, gives us an unexpected connection and sparks a reaction. In our case, laughter. I hope. Yeah, the joke is funny because our brains love the unexpected. Even more, our emotions love the unexpected. Just as Malin and her friends found relief in the unexpected hitter moment in the cemetery, we often find a sense of relief when we laugh. We need that relief. Recently, I had a couple of hard days dealing with this long third period of the pandemic. I didn't know what to do with myself. I was at 6s and 7s. I was squirrely. I was unsettled. I finally sat down and started flipping through YouTube to see if anything caught my eye, which it did. I remembered that there is a British television show I like called Taskmaster. Now, if you're not familiar with Taskmaster, and you may not be, it is best described by The Guardian as a show where comedians are filmed playing stupid games and gather on stage to argue over the footage. It is ridiculous, and it's silly, and it shouldn't work, and it's now in its 10th season with no sign of stopping. So I put on an episode, feeling anxious and sad and not in the mood for anything really, but, well, what the heck, English accents and no dramatic storyline seemed about as much as I could handle at the moment. And soon, while watching 5 comedians try to pop a bubble with their nose, I burst out laughing. The guffaws kept coming too, and the next task invited them to create the biggest splash they could. Ridiculous, stupid tasks, hysterical banter. Result? I was utterly surprised by the unexpected joy. It was balm for my troubled soul. And whether it's a murmuring laugh or a sudden guffaw, an internal giggle, all of these are a response to humor's power to break into our brain's ability and help us find joy in the unexpected. This matters. For millennia, we have used, loved, and frankly needed humor to change our perspective, to lift the lid off of what might be hidden under the commonplace, to challenge our expectations of how we think the world works, and excite us about what the world could be. Humor is the medicine we need to lift our spirits and make what's next possible. Now, I'm not saying we need to laugh and feel joyful all the time. Sadness, anger, fear, anxiety, all of these are natural emotions. They're desirable, reasonable responses to all that we are experiencing and witnessing. When we feel fully, we know we are alive, emotionally alive. And joy should not be left out of that mix. And so right now we should be making the conditions favorable. Remembering that even in the midst of a pandemic and a grueling election cycle, on top of the violence that continues on our streets, and on top of years of distress over the hell that is in the world, we need the release and perspective that humor provides so we can love the hell out. We need the propelling nature of joy to keep us going, to help us see those glimmers of hope. So go find a silly show, watch some stand-up, play a funny game, watch cat videos, engage in silly walks and dress-up days. Extend your gratitude practice to the sublime and the ridiculous. Make dad jokes. Make the conditions so favorable that even if you don't feel joy, even if you don't think anything's funny really, maybe still a bit of laughter will sneak in. It's easy to sink into frustration and despair, and more so than ever, we must at least invite the joy and laughter in, because the alternative is unbearable. So go, laugh, find joy. Amen.